Imagine diving into a river where the water is so cold it burns, the kind of cold that tears at your skin, makes your heart race, and can kill you in less than 2 minutes. Now imagine doing that on purpose. For the Vikings, this wasn't a mistake. It was a ritual. As ice gathered over the lakes and the wind cut like blades, men and women of the north plunged into frozen waters, not out of madness, but out of honor, purity, and courage. They believed that true strength was born from the shock of cold, that the soul was purified where others would see only death. These icy baths were more than hygiene. They were a conversation with the gods, and every breath caught between the ice and the fire within was a test of faith, strength, and survival. But how exactly did they do it? How did the Vikings survive plunging into near-frozen rivers without dying in seconds? Prepare yourself, because this story will show you the most extreme side of Norse courage. Before we begin, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep this frozen Viking saga alive. In the far north, ice was not just an enemy, it was a teacher. For the Vikings, cold was a divine force, a trial sent by the gods to separate the weak from the strong. And among all the rituals that defined their bond with the ice, none was as brutal as the bath, an ancient custom practiced not only for cleanliness, but as an offering to winter itself. Picture the scene. The sun barely rises over the fjords. The air is dense and sharp. The ground creaks under the weight of snow. Between white hills and frozen rivers, men and women walk in silence toward a gap in the ice, a small opening carved with axes. There, the water looks black, not because it's dirty, but because it's the liquid abyss of death. Steam rises in thin threads, and each breath releases a white cloud into the air. They don't enter all at once. First, they scrape snow over their bodies, rubbing arms and faces until their skin burns. Then they breathe deeply, murmuring ancient words, invocations to Odin and Njord, the god of the sea. The deep hum of the wind mingles with their prayers. One step, then another step, and then the plunge. The impact is indescribable. The water pierces like needles. The whole body locks in shock. The heart explodes into motion. But the Viking does not scream. He endures. He keeps his head raised, eyes closed, and lets the cold consume him completely. They believe that in that instant, the inner fire, the Eldri Likamanum, the flame within, awakened. It was the soul battling against the ice, life itself facing death for a few eternal seconds. These baths didn't happen just any day. They were performed on sacred dates, at the dawn of solstices, before battles, or after long voyages at sea. Purification was vital. To enter the frozen waters was to be reborn, clean, strong, and worthy to face the gods without fear. Many believed that those who could withstand the cold without trembling, without begging for warmth, received the blessing of Tyr, the god of courage. But it wasn't only warriors. Women also dove. It is said that the Norse priestesses, known as völvas, used the icy bath to enter a trance. The extreme cold placed them between two worlds, the physical and the spiritual. They claimed to hear ancestral voices, to feel the spirits of the ice whispering secrets of fate. In the villages, the bath also had a daily purpose. Far from mysticism, the Vikings, unlike what many believe, were obsessed with cleanliness. Anglo-Saxon records describe them washing at least once a week, a rare habit in the Middle Ages. But in Scandinavia, to wash meant facing the cold without mercy. During winter, that meant breaking the river's ice, warming the body through movement, and for a few moments, challenging death itself. Those who returned alive from the plunge were seen as reborn, and when they emerged from the water, skin red and steam rising from their bodies, they looked like spirits of ice rising from the Norse underworld. They were wrapped in furs, drank hot mead, and told stories about the moment they touched the edge between life and the beyond. For the Vikings, bathing in waters that could kill was more than courage. It was devotion. It was a reminder that the cold is not the enemy. It is the mirror of the gods, and in it, only the worthy can see their reflection. The human body was never meant to withstand water at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, but the Vikings, they defied that law. To them, the cold wasn't a barrier, it was a sacred frontier, and crossing it meant mastering one's own body, shaping the will like iron beneath Thor's hammer. Before each plunge, there was preparation. The warriors spent minutes warming their blood. They ran through the snow, pounded their chests with their fists, and shouted guttural chants that echoed through the frozen valleys. It wasn't just to get warm, it was to awaken the spirit. Extreme cold could kill within minutes, but a body awakened and inflamed by the fury of the gods could endure. The most experienced said the key was in the breath. Inhale slowly, hold the air, let the chest expand as if swallowing the ice itself, then release it with a roar as if spitting out fear. This breathing ritual, reminiscent of shamanic warrior techniques, calmed the mind and prepared the body for the shock. They called it walking with Odin's wind, a state where the mind abandoned fear and the body became pure instinct. When the plunge began, the body reacted in panic. Muscles contracted, the heart raced, and blood retreated to shield the vital organs. But that was the challenge, to remain still while the flesh begged to escape. The Vikings believed the soul was forged in that battle, between the body that wanted to flee and the spirit that commanded it to stay. Records tell of Icelandic warriors who dove naked, believing that clothing weakened the cold's power. Others wore only a leather strap around the waist, a symbol of self-mastery. After the dive, the body emerged in shock, trembling. But the eyes burned. They said you could see the glow of the ice, a bluish spark reflected in their pupils, a sign that the body had survived and the spirit had been accepted. The physical toll was brutal, yet mastered with wisdom. Right after emerging from the water, the Viking would be wrapped in wolf or bear pelts, and a companion would hand him a cup of mjöd, thick steaming mead made from honey and herbs. The drink reignited the inner fire. Blood flowed again, and the body, moments from death, became vibrant, almost euphoric. It was like being reborn in living flesh. Villages turned this moment into a spectacle. Families gathered along the riverbank, torchlight dancing on the ice. When the warriors emerged from the water, children beat improvised drums, and the women sang ancient chants. There was no fear, only awe. It was like watching a man return from beyond the veil. These baths also had medicinal value. Norse healers believed that the shock of cold expelled sickness and strengthened the lungs. Some accounts tell of elders diving during the winter solstice, convinced that the frozen waters cleansed the mind and extended life. Even slaves, when granted freedom, were invited to dive, a symbol of purification and new beginnings. But not everyone returned. The extreme cold demanded its price. Sometimes a body simply could not endure. Those who died were seen as chosen by the gods of ice, carried to the hall of Ran, the goddess of the frozen sea. Their names were remembered not with sorrow, but with reverence. They had touched the edge and offered their final breath to Norse eternity. For those who survived, the bath left invisible marks. Purple lips, trembling muscles, pain deep in the bones, all reminders that they had conquered death, and that death itself respected them for it. That night, gathered around the fire, they told stories of how the ice had received them and released them again. Cold, they said, is not the end. It is the mirror where the warrior's soul is reflected. When the cold ceased to be only a challenge and became a divine symbol, Viking baths crossed the boundary of the physical and entered the spiritual. For many, diving into the frozen waters was touching the very threshold of life, that moment when the body screams for air and the soul whispers ancient answers. The Vikings believed that the extreme cold opened doors that could not be seen, only felt. During the winter solstice, when the sun seemed to die completely, and the world was swallowed by darkness. The vulvas, priests and priestesses of the north, performed what they called baths of transition. These rituals took place before sunrise, when the ice still sang over the lakes and the wind seemed to speak. They gathered in silence, cloaked in dark robes, each carrying a small symbol, a hammer of Thor, a rune carved in bone, or a stone taken from the bottom of a fjord. These objects were submerged first, as offerings before the body followed. The ritual began with breathing chants, deep rhythmic sounds that rolled like distant thunder. The sound deceived fear, keeping the mind awake as the cold attacked the nerves. When the body entered the water, the outside world disappeared. The cold took over everything. The heart slowed, the air grew heavy, and the mind, caught between pain and calm, slipped into a trance. They believed that in that moment, the soul could see the 9 worlds of Yggdrasil, the great tree of life. The body froze, but the spirit traveled. The elders said the ice had a voice, one that could only be heard by those standing between life and death. A deep, distant voice, whispering secrets of future battles, of loves that would end in the wind, and of children yet unborn. Some returned weeping, others laughed, as if they had heard something no man was ever meant to hear. At that point, the bath was no longer about cleansing. It was about spiritual rebirth, and there was blood too. In certain villages, it was believed that the ice needed life in order to return strength. Participants would cut their palms or let a drop fall from their fingertips before diving. When the blood touched the water, it spread like a red flower beneath the ice, a silent pact between man and nature. It was the price to ensure the cold would not kill. The vulvas, especially, saw this ritual as a bridge to the gods. They believed the cold washed away impure energies, making the body a vessel worthy of prophecy. After the bath, they dressed in dry tunics of wool, dyed with herbs and ash, and sat in circles to interpret their visions. Some described seeing figures walking beneath the ice, ancient shadows, fallen warriors, perhaps the spirits of ancestors guarding the rivers of the north. These visions were treated as divine messages, used to decide marriages, voyages, and even wars. For warriors, the ritual bath was different. They dove before battle, believing that the ice purified fear and hardened the heart. When they emerged, they struck their fists to their chests and shouted the name of Odin, vowing that if they died, they would take the same plunge in the waters of Valhalla. It was said that no warrior who faced the cold of the river would ever fear the cold of death. But the ice did not always accept. There were tales of rivers that took those who entered without faith. Villagers said the water could sense weak hearts and drag them below into the silent hall of Ran, the goddess of the deep sea. That is why before each bath, one old custom was always kept, leaving a small stone at the river's edge, a symbol of humility before the power of the ice. For the Vikings, cold was a portal, and diving into it was to accept that living meant flirting with the end every single day. The body was reborn stronger, and the mind quieter. They emerged from the water trembling, yet their gaze was calm. The gaze of those who had faced the gods and returned to tell the tale. The northern sun barely rose. Only a pale glow spread across the ice, like a distant memory of warmth. The village still slept, wrapped in mist, and only the sound of water breaking the ice announced that something sacred was taking place. A lone warrior approached the crack in the river. The air burned. The ground groaned beneath his steps, and even the silence seemed to watch. He knew that water could kill him, but he also knew that was where the gods awaited him. Kneeling before the water, he didn't see his reflection. He saw depth. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and dove. For an instant, the entire world vanished. Nothing remained but the distant thud of his heart, slow, heavy, relentless. Each beat echoed like the strike of an ancient drum. The cold surrounded him, But something within him burned, a silent flame no winter could extinguish. And then, the moment of return. The body surfaced, gasping, air tearing into his lungs, and ice falling from his shoulders like broken armor. Around him, steam rose. The man looked like a spirit, half flesh, half mist. His hands trembled, but his eyes were calm, deep, timeless. He had crossed the threshold. The ice had tested him and accepted him. The Vikings saw in that act the essence of everything they were. To them, cold was not punishment. It was a reminder that life is meant to be conquered, not received. In a world where the wind cut like a blade and death waited around every corner, the ice bath was more than courage. It was reverence. It was looking winter in the eye and saying, "I am made of you as well." The villages celebrated those who returned. They gathered around the fire, drinking mead and telling what they had seen beneath the water. Some said they had felt Odin's presence. Others swore they heard the songs of Valhalla echoing under the ice. But all shared the same silence, the silence of those who know the edge and choose to cross it. And so, generation after generation, the custom endured. Even centuries later, the people of the North still plunge into cold waters, unknowingly following the path of their ancestors. Today, we call it ice bathing, therapy, resilience training. For them, it was faith, and perhaps deep down, it still is, a pact with cold, with fear, with life itself. Because when freezing water touches your skin and your heart fights to keep beating, something awakens, something primal, wild, pure. It's the same fire that kept the Vikings alive when the world froze over, the same fire that still burns within us. So next time the cold wind hits your face, remember this: for a Viking, the cold was never the enemy. It was the master. And in the waters that could kill, they found proof that they were immortal, not in body, but in spirit. If this story made you shiver and burn at the same time, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what you thought of this Viking ritual. I want to know, would you have the courage to dive into waters that could kill you? Comment below. I'll be reading and replying to every one of them.